The trio then arrived at Joel's apartment. Ellie eavesdropped on Joel and Tess as they discussed emergency plans to go to the Bill and Frank city, and Tess's plan to scout the area ahead while Joel rested. After overhearing and learning this information, Ellie found a code mentioned in a book next to a radio in Joel's possession. She deduced that 1960s music played on the radio indicated no new information, and 1970s music suggested a new message. When Joel entered, Ellie asked about Bill and Frank and the significance of 1980s music. Ellie then lied, saying that Wake Me Up Before You Go Go played on the radio while she was asleep, which obviously worried Joel. Based on his reaction, Ellie inferred from the 1980s song that Tommy was actually in trouble. Tess then entered and ordered them to hurry as Fedra was initiating a curfew operation. Joel, Tess, and Ellie emerged from underground and unexpectedly encountered an officer named Lee, whom Joel had bribed with contraband. Lee then ordered them to kneel and began scanning them. When scanning Ellie reacted by stabbing Lee in the leg with a knife under the gunpoint. Joel was reminded of the moment of his daughter Sarah's death and immediately attacked and beat Lee to death. Tess found the scan results indicating Ellie was infected with the cordyceps fungus. Ellie denied being infected, showing a bite or wound on her arm, and explained that she had acquired the wound 3 weeks earlier. Realizing the threat was closing in, they decided to continue their journey through the ruins of Boston. Meanwhile, back at Joel's apartment, a song from 1987 played on the radio, indicating that Tommy was indeed in trouble. Ellie woke up on the floor of a building where Joel and Tess watched her while pointing their guns, concerned that Ellie might be infected. Ellie once again affirmed she was not infected, but Joel and Tess remained skeptical while eating sandwiches that Marlene had prepared for them earlier. Ellie informed them of a Fireflies camp in the West that was developing a vaccine. Joel, filled with doubts, suggested they return immediately, but Tess persuaded him to continue their plan, because she believed the Fireflies would still provide them with supplies for their journey to find Tommy and continue their mission. They finally left and continued navigating through the city. Their path to the State House was blocked by collapsed buildings. Joel offered the choice of continuing the long journey or trying a shortcut to determine which route was safe. Joel suggested checking through a hotel first. Along the way, Ellie shared where she got her bite mark, which began when she, a 14-year-old orphan, sneaked into an abandoned mall alone. She had previously believed that it was full of hordes of people infected with the cordyceps fungus. Their attention was then diverted by a strange noise, prompting Joel to urge them to keep moving. They arrived at a hotel lobby flooded with knee-deep water, where Ellie accidentally found a skull while playing around at the reception desk and guest luggage trolley. They continued up the stairs as their path was blocked. Tess chose to go through a narrow gap in the collapsed building to open their way from inside. Joel was briefly annoyed by Ellie, who was curious about many aspects of his personal life. They then discussed the infected, and Tess eventually appeared to open the door. Here, Joel noticed a worried expression on Tess's face that suggested something was amiss. On the hotel balcony, Ellie observed a group of infected lying in the streets, trying to avoid the sunlight, which was the long path they could take. Tess explained to Ellie that their numbers had increased because people who came to the quarantine zone hid inside buildings. Inside these buildings, they were attacked and eventually infected. Tess also added that the fungus also grew underground with fibers that stretched for miles, connecting them all together. That's why if they stepped on a cordyceps network, it would awaken the others, even those far away. That's why they had to avoid it, especially for Ellie, who, although immune to the cordyceps infection, was not immune to their slashing attacks. Joel, Tess, and Ellie decided to take a shortcut through a museum to check it out. Joel broke the fungus growing outside the museum, concluding that the dry fungus indicated that all the infected inside the museum were dead. They then entered the museum, where Ellie encountered a man who seemed to have been attacked. Tess tried to calm them down, suggesting he might have been attacked outside before entering the building. However, they were actually aware that there might be something more terrifying inside the building. Therefore, Joel asked them to make no noise inside. They then climbed the stairs, where Ellie stepped on a decayed hand. They reached the upper floor and managed to avoid a collapsing staircase. The sound of a clicker emerged creepily and terrifyingly from the next room, making Ellie increasingly frightened as she hid. Joel explained to Ellie that they couldn't see, but they could hear, and they could use echolocation abilities to detect their prey. A clicker approached them, startling Ellie and causing the clicker to attack them. As Joel tried to incapacitate it, another clicker appeared and chased Tess and Ellie, who were trying to escape. Joel successfully avoided the first clicker while reloading his pistol, then met up with Ellie. However, Joel accidentally stepped on broken glass, causing the clicker to attack again. Ellie was bitten, but Joel eventually used his pistol to kill the clicker, while the second clicker was incapacitated by Tess, then later killed by Joel with his rifle. Tess then informed them that they had to keep moving before sunset. On the outside roof, Joel helped Tess, who was in pain from a sprained ankle. They then walked toward the State House, where a container truck was parked and waiting to transport Ellie. Joel was suspicious because no one came out to meet them until he checked the truck and found the driver was already dead. Tess then forced Ellie and Joel to enter a building where they found dead Fireflies members. One of them was found with fungus growing on his face. When Ellie asked if Fedra was responsible for their deaths, Joel answered that it was likely one of them had been infected, causing the others to become infected as well. Tess, beginning to panic, tried to find a map and something that showed the way to the Fireflies' camp. Joel, losing patience, finally told them it was all over and they had to go home. Tess reacted by saying that this was her home, where Ellie realized that Tess had been infected. Tess then showed a bite mark on her neck. Tess then ordered Ellie to remove the bandage, revealing that the bite mark on Ellie's hand had completely healed, and this was their only hope. Tess then instructed Joel to go look for Bill and Frank. Suddenly, one of the Fireflies awakened, and Joel shot him. And then the cordyceps network moved in that Firefly's fingers, awakening the rest of the horde outside, who then stormed the State House. Tess took Joel's rifle while dropping several fuel drums and spreading grenades. She tried to ensure Ellie and Joel were not chased. Joel quickly forced Ellie to leave when the horde stormed the building. Tess struggled to ignite her lighter until one of them approached and kissed her to spread the cordyceps network through her mouth. Just in time, her lighter ignited. Then she dropped it, exploding the building filled with the infected horde. Meanwhile, Joel and Ellie finally managed to get out of the building, watching the horde of infected burn. Continuing their journey, Joel and Ellie, who survived the raid of infected people, had to let go of Tess, who eventually died after being infected and chose to end her life, allowing Joel and Ellie to continue their journey without the obstacle of infected people. Joel and Ellie arrived at a forest 10 miles west of Boston City and did rock balancing by the river to calm their minds, marking it as Tess's grave. Joel then shared his food with Ellie. Before continuing their journey, Ellie warned Joel not to blame himself for Tess's death because Joel himself had chosen to accept Marlene's earlier request to get a battery for his car. They then continued their journey, hiking for 5 hours to their destination. Along the way, Ellie mostly asked about the figures Bill and Frank, and then inquired about the scar on his head, which Joel explained was from a gunshot that missed. Ellie then tried to tease Joel into sharing his gun, but Joel refused. They stopped at a farm, where Joel intended to pick up items he had stashed away long ago. Joel had secretly stored several supplies at various locations, intending if they were short on supplies during their journey, they could directly retrieve them. While Joel was busy looking for his supplies, Ellie wandered around the room until she was drawn to an arcade game, recounting a friend who had played the game before. Ellie then found a bunker and entered it, where she was surprised by an infected person crushed by debris. Using her folding knife, Ellie tore from the infected person, then killed it. After taking the necessary supplies, Joel stored his rifle, considering it less useful since they would not find any ammunition supplies on their journey. They paused briefly to look at the remains of a plane that had crashed at the start of the pandemic, admired by Ellie. Joel then explained the origins of the pandemic, stating that no one knew exactly what caused it. But the best guess believed by many was that the pandemic was caused by a mutated cordyceps fungus spread through food made from processed flour and sugar worldwide. If consumed in excess, people would become infected and eventually start biting others to spread the infection. They then found human skulls scattered by the roadside, which Joel explained were from when the Fedra government evacuated small villages to quarantine zones. However, Because the quarantine zones could not accommodate them, they were eliminated to prevent them from infecting and endangering others.